new Doctor Who or classic Doctor Who? What do we think? This one's going to be very divisive, I feel.
Perhaps you can tell from my age, but classic Doctor Who for me. There's two of us.
Ooh.
The thing with classic Doctor Who is that few of the stories really hold up now. And I'm aware that there are lots of iffy politics and all sorts of weird things going on in the history of Doctor Who, but it has a fascinating history, and the politics behind the making of the show in the classic era is for me endlessly entertaining and interesting. And in the recent years with the new Doctor Who, I do like it, but it's not for me. I'm not the audience for the new Doctor Who as a passionate fan. And I remember actually when they relaunched Doctor Who in 2005, I think it was, I said to a friend who was a fan of classic Who, we watched the first episode, Rose, and I said, this is absolutely not made for me as a Doctor Who fan, although I enjoyed it, but it's absolutely what it needs to be, and it is perfectly tuned for the audience that needs to take it forward. So I do love what it does. It's not quite for me. I'm classic Who for that reason.
I think as like the perfect BBC entertainment now, the fact that it exists in a form is amazing. And also Jodie Whittaker is incredible. Like she's so watchable. I love watching New Who. As someone who didn't watch Old Who, it's something that you look back and go, I should watch that, because it's bringing up a whole new audience to it. I think that's the important thing, is opening up audiences to go back and to catch up and to see what they prefer.
Absolutely. I think I'm in agreement with you. I never really was familiar with old Doctor Who, but like ever since David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and obviously now a new female Doctor Who, I've wanted to go back and revisit old episodes like, The Angels and obviously all those classic moments, because, it's like they've redone it for a new audience, and sort of they've got all those classic stories, but it has to evolve. It can't be old classic Who anymore, because the audience simply isn't the same.
I think one thing that could be said currently for New Who is, and it's kind of supported really by the way we are in the era of television, because once New Who starts, it gets a load of fans back in, people are hooked in. Thanks to iPlayer, we can go back and watch the older Who episodes, and I think that's what appeals to me about the way the television is now, is that we've got that function and we can do that, because I still love watching New Who, and then if there's an episode of Old Who on, I still love watching that too. I find there's an entertainment value in both, but I think it's down to the actual person watching as to how far they take it back.
I think it's trying to get back on the right track as well. Like the last season was more standalone, more one-offs. Stephen Moffat is responsible for some of my favourite New Who episodes, but he got too bogged down in this whole overarching thing. And I think the joy with Doctor Who is that you can just dip in. You don't have to watch every single episode. You can just go back into the past and watch standalone ones, and that's what it needs to be. The last series wasn't perfect in the stories they chose to do, but it feels like if that's the way forward, then that's what it should be doing.
And what do we think about the break? It's had a longer than normal break in between the seasons. Do we think that's going to harm it or hurt it?
I think breaks are always good. I mean, like, it takes as long as it takes to make, right? The minute you put a deadline on creativity for things, the worse it gets. I mean, the person for that to talk about was J.K. Rowling. Promised she would make every Harry Potter book every year, and then four almost killed her, and she decided, I think I'll take 2 years to do it. So as long as things take, we can wait. We're fine. We're okay. You can just go back and rewatch.
It's one of the many curses of social media, is that we're now kind of invested in every sort of step of the development process, and everyone has an opinion on it, and everyone sort of just is following every step of the way. And in bygone times, we wouldn't have had that privilege. We would have been like, well, when it arrives, I guess that's when we'll watch it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I think the break could help it as well, because let's be honest, the reaction to Jodie Whittaker's casting was a little bit toxic and was getting more into the Star Wars kind of thing. So maybe the break will help, that by the time it comes back, as long as she's going to continue and it's not just going to be another series and then they're rebooting it again, it feels like the break could help it like readjust, realize what went wrong, and then they want to do it when it's right next, personally.
And we've always had regenerations with Doctor Who, and we've always had this kind of, as you just rightfully said, reboots there. But do you think we need to have a longer time between each reboot now? Because you rightfully just said it. It takes time for each new Doctor to settle in, find their groove, and then lately it's been settle in, one season-ish, then you're done. And then we've got to reset the whole again. Do we think that that's good, bad? What do we think?
I think each Doctor will take as long to bed in as they need, and I think, I mean, ideally they would get a few years run up, but in Classic Who, you had Colin Baker who had 2 seasons, Sylvester McCoy had 3 seasons, but they were quite short. Ideally, yeah, they would just get the run out that they get. In the past, in Classic Who, Doctors were forced out because of the BBC management, and now it's the fans, or it's not the fans, it's the people who watch and the people who make a fuss on social media and so on. So they need to be backed up from behind, and they need the budgets, and they need the stories and so on behind them. I don't think in the Jodie Whittaker, in the first season she's had, I don't think some of the writing has been perfect for her. I think she's a great Doctor. I think she's got huge potential, and I hope that in the next season, whenever it comes out, that she's really backed up and she's given a chance to have a proper crack at it, because I think previous Doctors have had a more solid basis to begin with.
I think one of the problems with Jodie Whittaker for me is that from the get-go she had 3 companions. It's never really happened before, or on a rare occasion, so it almost like strikes straight away that they're not quite sure with her. And it's like, if the Doctor's not the main character, then what is the point? It's called Doctor Who, it's not Doctor Who and their companions. Like, it almost gave off the wrong impression for me, like, and they need to pare it down, and maybe they will. We'll just have to wait and see. And
there's someone like Bradley Walsh as a companion. He's quite a very strong personality anyway, as a character they've given him. They've kind of... Do we feel overwhelmed Jodie Whittaker's Doctor a bit more?
It's just kind of like, it just gives off the impression that they don't trust her on her own merits, that she needs to be supported by these other characters, or the people won't watch for her alone, which I think is just a completely, like, if you're not going to trust your main character, then why cast her in the first place?
I like Bradley, but I think pairing her up with an old white man is not a good look for her first season.